morning. It's day 8 after Helene, and we're talking about real estate and what's happening in the real estate market relative to these homes that flooded. The One of the things that's coming up right now is known as the 50% rule. The 50% rule says that if a home is in a flood zone and it's damaged, then the repairs can only be made up to the 50% of the value. And there's talk out there on the internet that they are going to uh, condemn homes that are in flood zones where the repairs are greater than 50%. And this is actually pretty frightening. If you have a home in Senate Manor or Del Mar or any of these mobile home communities that are on in the flood zone, that it could be that they will not allow you to make these repairs. And these people are making these repairs as we speak. All right, we're looking at the price decreases. The only one on here that I see that's a flood zone, an obvious flood zone, is this Olsner. And let's see what it says. The property is rock solid, and there's no mention of it being flooded. But let's look at the map. And this definitely flooded. I mean, this whole Olsner was underwater for a couple of days after the. You couldn't even drive right here. Yeah, this house is definitely suspect, and we're on the price decreases. It's just interesting that there's no mention that the home was flooded. Let's look at the cancels. All right, West Shore definitely is in a flood zone. Pleasure Drive in Buena Vista is not a flood zone, and it did not flood. I was in there yesterday. That's not a flood zone. Okay, Sand Pebble definitely, the ground floor definitely flooded, and they're not making any mention of it. Obtaining a quote to redo dock. Now, this is a stilt home built in 2001. So in theory, the garage flooded, but they are not disclosing that the ground floor flooded. And Spanish Trails and Zephyr Hills obviously didn't flood. So my whole let's look at the solds. Let's see the yesterday's solds. Oh, now there's 6 of them. Longhorn is not a flood zone, so none of the solds are flood zones. And expireds, it doesn't matter. They're not. What are most important, what we want to know is what's happening with the market relative to the homes in the flood zone. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do a search. If you're coming into Pasco County and you're looking for property, you have 4,080 choices. If you look at the number down here at the bottom, it says 4,080. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the ones in the floods. Or actually, let's do canal frontage first. So let's look at canal saltwater, 106. We'll go to single family, and there's 71. So that's, let's look at these properties. Let's look at them by neighborhood. Bailey's Bluff, Cape K, these two definitely are 2-story or 3-story houses. So Driftwood Isles, let's look at this property here. All right, this is a stilt home, so we're not going to put that in the same category as the 1-story houses. All right, this home definitely flooded. Let's look at where it is on the flood map. Yeah, no, that home had 3 feet plus. It could have had 5 feet in it. And there's no mention of it flooding. Yeah, this is scary stuff if you're shopping. The seller will pay $13,000 in concessions for a full-priced offer, closing fees and repairs. And there's no mention of it flooding. That's just bizarre. All right, this one's a multi-story home. So, okay, Gulf Harbor's, half of Gulf Harbor's flooded, maybe a little bit more. And there's no mention of flooding in this listing. And Gulf Harbor's again, it's possible that it didn't flood, depending on what street it's on. Some of the streets in Gulf Harbor's are higher than the other ones. There's no mention of whether this flooded. It's just bizarre to me that there's no longer a hot tub on the lanai. Well, you know what they're asking and what they're willing to accept and what they're disclosing are going to be issues that we're going to have to deal with if you're shopping. It's hard to imagine that anyone is shopping for waterfront. Now, this home definitely flooded, and it definitely went pending yesterday in 4 days. Now, this one has been on the market for only 4 days. Under contract, price to sell. I mean, that price last week would have been a pretty amazing price. 6828 Harbor Drive. So anytime you're looking at a property, you want to go to Pasco, PA, and do a record search on it. So let's show you how to do that. That was 6828. 6828 Harbor Drive. So this home is taxed at $288,000, and it went under contract at $200,000. So we're going to go to the map. I'm going to learn you how to do what I'm doing. Just follow me, and you can do this on any home that you are investigating. And you should look at this website for every home that you're considering. It's a little slow. Okay. So this was all underwater. And this house was underwater. So there's a drop-down menu here, and it'll allow you to open up all of these different drop-downs to add or remove these various drop-down options. Landform is the one that has the FEMA. So we're going to put on landform. We're going to remove the drop-down and give it a second to populate. Let's see, why didn't it work? Because it didn't click. Okay, so you can see this is all an AE flood zone, and that's this is all an AE flood zone. Oh my goodness. All right, so what I want to do is I want to look at it again, but let me start over and remove the drop down. Now, under AE flood zones, in that illustration, it shows 11 feet, but that's not really the topography of it. We want to look at the topography of it, and it looks like I might have to click on landform to get topography. I just don't like the blue. Okay, so this is 5 feet. This is 5 feet. This is 5 feet. So it's safe to say that this property is 5 feet above sea level, and we flooded 8 feet. So it's likely that there was 3 feet of water in this property. Since this is a training moment, and since there's only 2 or 3 of you actually watching my videos now, in the future, I believe I'll go viral. I have hundreds of people in a year or two that likely will look at this. this button right here, if you hover over this, well, it used to say click here for related transactions. But this is just going to allow us to see what the comparable sales are in this neighborhood. So this property right here sold for $550,000 on Clark Street in September. Oh my gosh. This is vacant land that sold for $120,000. This is vacant land. Here's a house on Leslie that sold for $435,000. $400,000 for this property on Muriel. That Muriel definitely flooded. $240,000 on Neptune. $665,000. $335,000. So a $200,000 transaction for this property. Our subject property is 6828 Harbor Drive. It's taxed at $288,000. So in theory, well, they might not want to count the land. In theory, maybe they're only counting the value of the building at $179,000. So to rehab this property, it'll be $90,000 limit on how much you can spend. Anyway, I'm Randy Jenkins. I'm doing a daily market report on post Helene. I'm ringing, so I will end this video and wish you the best.